from Facebook from there, and yeah.
Can I
pulled the
record
recording
it?
from there.
Can I record it?
I don't know if you can record it or not, but we are live right now. So I will
Oh.
send you, what I do, Mitch, is when it's done, I will send you the YouTube link if that's what you like.
That's what I like. Yeah, I just want to be able to
Perfect.
post it on my social media stuff too.
We can
Thank
do
you.
that. We can do that.
Excellent. I
So
am
what-
ready, Queen.
Awesome. So here we are today on another episode of A Case for Travels with my special guest, Mitch Krayton, who owns Krayton Travel in Denver, Colorado, a VIP tailor-made travel company in Aurora, Colorado, where they help people make memories, not regrets. So welcome, Mitch.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. It's my honor to be here.
So you have a phrase on your website, entrepreneur's disease.
Yes.
You also have the cure for this disease. What is the disease and how do you cure it?
Well, I'll tell you, this story goes back a little bit. I was a mentor for a little startup group here in Denver, Colorado, and I used to see entrepreneurs with great ideas, and they would pitch to people giving them their initial funding or their mezzanine finance. And then I would pull them aside and I said, well, how many hours a week or day do you put into this? Oh, it's nonstop. I eat it, I sleep it, I drink it. And then they get some funding and then they start digging in even harder, trying to materialize a dream. And then they're working and then they have to hire somebody, but they are so critical to the project, they can't let go. And so they maybe hire a couple more people, but I'm essential to this project. I can't let go. And the entrepreneur disease is, it's your baby, it's your idea, but you won't kick it out of the nest or delegate any responsibility to somebody else. You don't trust that somebody else can manage this in your absence. And the result of that is that you're so focused and so all into this that lo and behold, you are not bathing, you are not taking medical care. And from my world, you don't pay yourself by time off and saying, why am I working so hard? Well, it's because I want to travel and I want to do this and I want to do that. And so my experience has been when I sit down with this entrepreneur and I said, okay, you've been working 365 days a year, and you've been working 20 hours a day, so you don't burn up. When will you invest in yourself and say, I brought the best people on board, I have a product that's gaining traction, it's time for me to refresh and recharge? When will you pay yourself the kindness of taking a vacation? And when I have convinced an entrepreneur that they have this disease and the cure is getting away and not text messaging and not emailing and not phoning and not logging on to their portable device and literally cutting the cord 4 days, 7 days, however long it is, they come back and they realize the earth continued to spin, their business still existed, and the people you hired were competent. They kept the business going. And there was no issue that was so critical that the barn burned down and all the animals ran away. And I said, now you validated you have a legitimate business. Because if the business can't unwind and ultimately be sold or given to the employees, it's really just a personal hobby that will consume you. And so that entrepreneur's disease, I believe, is best treated with travel. And I don't care whether you go to a beach and just chill, you go to a spa and you get massages and mud baths, or you put on your hiking boots and you go climb a trail. Whatever it is to clear your mind and body, when you come back, you're delighted that the business is operating. You have a fresh perspective because now you've gotten out of your cocoon of this business. You've seen the world. You've had a time to reflect on plants and birds and animals and, oh yes, other people outside your business. And lo and behold, you're a better person for it.
Mhm.
And now you realize that giving a holiday even to your key workers will generate better results. And that needs to become part of the culture of any entrepreneurial program. And again, it doesn't have to be a bucket list trip where you're climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, but it has to be a disconnect. And I always remind people, the word vacation has the word vacate in it. And there's a reason for
That's
that.
good. Yeah.
You're not supposed to be working remotely while you're on a cruise. You're not supposed to be working remotely while you're exploring Antarctica or even on a beach in Mexico. It is that, no, that's not a vacation.
Mhm.
All you're doing is working remotely. Don't do that. So as a person who guides people on the health value of travel, that's the one I see. Small business, oh, I can't afford it. They need me. I'm too indispensable. What am I going to do with my pets? What am I going to do with my kids? And I go, if heaven forbid you got whacked by a train, they'd all figure it out. So here's the lesson. Pay yourself first.
Yes.
The reason you
Yes.
work so hard is for the benefits of having a joyful life. And that's where my entrepreneurial disease story comes.
Excellent. And I know a lot of people that have that entrepreneurial disease.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people. And it's interesting, your vacation has vacate in the word, and it made me think of my travel blog. It's the same thing. A lot of people think, okay, you do your traveling and you get back and you write up your blog and put it on it goes that night. It is not like that at all. I don't blog about my travels until they're done, because like you said, I am not there to go to a destination to sit on my computer the whole time and write. I'll make notes. I take notes in my little notebook and I take my pictures to help trigger my memory, but I do not create my blog that night and post it that night. It just doesn't work. What fun would that be?
And for the average traveler, I tell them at the end of the day, journal your keynotes. Who did I meet? What was my aha moment? And,
Yeah.
what are the key pictures? And then when you get back, you're retelling that story and then write it down,
Mm-hmm.
because your friends are going to say, well, how did the trip go? What did you do? Oh, well, here I wrote it, or here, this is my album. And you're going to show the slideshow. We can do this now with our portable devices. Here, let me air play this to you, on your TV. And instantly now you relive this experience, and that catharsis comes back. And I always tell people, do you remember the stories when you were a kid about your parents when they traveled and they did this and they took movies? You remember movies, 8mm, Super 8, and those stories stick with you. Or there's the movies of you learning how to ride a bicycle with training wheels. Those memories modify your life, they embed in your soul. And when you have children, when you have family, when you have friends, it's those stories that make your life unique. And it's the gift of telling those stories that is such a joy. And to me, when I'm traveling, I'm getting gifts from local people, from the critters that live there. And yes, I have a camera around my neck the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
but I do put it down. I was in Alaska, and we were in an expedition style boat. So maximum would have been 70 passengers. We had 40 some odd. And we were coming back around to Juneau, around Admiralty Island. And the captain notifies us and says, you realize that there are whales all around this vessel, and they are bubble feeding, and they are breaching, and they are playing with their fins. Please put your camera down and just watch this amazing behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the cameras out, and of course the whale just breaches right 5 feet in front of us, right?
Wow.
And the bubble feeding, if you've not experienced this, the whale goes down and it makes a bubble in a circle, and the krill see this like a net. They don't go anywhere, and the whale goes all the way down, comes back up, opens its mouth, and sucks in all the water, and the baleen lets the water go out, and the krill stay in its mouth.
Wow.
And they were doing that for hours, these multi-ton, immense creatures of the sea. Okay, why would you not pay attention to that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not something happening at your desk. So, and,
Oh, yeah.
to me, that's life. And that I just told it to you. Do you see how it's coming from me from my toes? I'll never forget that day.
And you probably have goosebumps too.
How can you tell? And the whales were pleased to meet me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, I've never heard a whale watching story like that before. That's fascinating.
Well, and here's the irony. All the mega ships were coming north to go into Juneau. Not one of them stopped. Not one of them was pointing out anything other than get ready, we're going to Juneau and prepare for disembarkation. And they just kept going. And we were just one knot. You can't anchor. It's 700, 800 feet deep in that part. And they just kept on going. And we were there. And I'll give you a little final thing. It was the final night of our journey. And the chef said, hey, tonight we're having king crab legs, and I've boiled up a whole pot for you. Nobody wanted to go to eat. And so the captain said, I promise you, after you eat, if they're still feeding, we'll still stay here. 2 hours after dinner, they were still feeding. I mean, the sun
That's
was starting to go.
unreal.
That paid for the whole trip.
Yeah.
And not to mention that inside they had whiteboards, and every critter that you saw flying, swimming on land, people wrote it down. There were 120 animals that we had seen that just don't appear in the big city. Amazing experience, right?
Yeah.
Now, I've been to Alaska on large cruise ships. I love them too. But once I've experienced a smaller cruise ship, I just have to say, give it a try if you are a skeptic. If you don't think cruising is for you, try this. And on board, we had a couple that were in their 80s, and we had a 16-year-old, and every single one of them got engaged with the program. They relaxed when they wanted to relax. They had the rubber zodiacs to take you on land. We saw moose and eagle and brown bear, and then the polar plunge, and I did it.
I'm not doing that.
Well, people say I'm not doing that. You're in the water maybe 40 seconds and there's people all around you, but it's one of those bucket list things, right? You
I
gotta
think
do
I'd
it.
have a heart attack though.
You wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. There are people there that are ready to bail you out. And I thought, and here's the tip, I thought I'd be freezing. So I brought a blanket and I brought a robe and I brought slippers and 2 pairs of socks. Well, guess what? When you get out of that icy cold water, the air temperature is 40 degrees warmer. You feel perfectly fine.
True.
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. Well, so who knew? But darn it,
Yeah.
I would do it again. I have to tell you.
Now, your comment brings me to the next question, because you are a small ship concierge.
Right.
So what is the difference, or I guess the biggest difference that you can say, between the small ship cruising and the mega ships?
Well, the large ships are wonderful. And let's face it, the whole Love Boat started the revolution. But the Love Boat was only 1,200 passengers. Today, these ships go as large as 6,000, and I'm aware of one under construction that will hold 10,000 passengers. That's a floating stadium.
It is, yeah.
That's an amusement park. And so they have to then find, what do you do with those people when you're floating at sea? So you have to have 20 restaurants, and you have to have theater and stage shows, and you have to have amusements like surfing and water slides, and one ship actually has a race car track on its top. And so if you like partying, I say, okay, and you've never been on a ship, go. They're very stable, but they're huge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I visited the largest ship at the time was called Symphony of the Seas, 6,000 passengers, 20 some odd decks. The ship is 3 football fields long. Now imagine walking 3 football fields 20 times to get to see everything on the ship. Okay, that's your first 4 days at sea. So the big difference is when you're traveling, the ship is the attraction, and all the amenities that come on the ship, the shows, the wine, the drinking. Yeah, you get shore excursions, but I always ask people, so when you went to Jamaica, how many Jamaicans do you recall talking to? Silence.
Mm-hmm.
So when you visit the Caribbean, Was it any different than if you were on a land resort?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Mhm.
So you're buying an all-inclusive, if you will, land resort that just happens to float, and most of them are in the Caribbean, although ships these days can sail anywhere. But here's the big difference: a large ship needs a pier, and it requires a lot of work, and they're an experience to behold. I've sailed all over the world on some of the larger ships, but they all come together in the same port at the same time, which means there's
Mhm.
not enough space for a ship to actually go to the dock. So some of them have to anchor at sea, and then each one in turn takes a little ship called a tender. Well, it takes an hour or two for you to tender off the ship, and an hour or two to get back on the ship before they can sail away. Most of the big ships only stay in port for about 6 or 7 hours.
Mhm.
So that means you really only have 4 or 5 hours to visit a destination. Very few of them will stay overnight. Now, the smaller ship, they don't need to anchor out in the harbor and take you on board with the ship. They can always find a place to dock. And when you go, you're going to places that are not crowded. So imagine 10 ships out in the harbor of Kingston, Jamaica, and each one of them has between 3,000 and 5,000 passengers. All right, so there's 40,000 people going to Kingston and 40,000 people leaving Kingston. Those are crowds, right?
Mhm.
I have a small ship. I can just go up to 7 Mile Beach and be in Kingston, and I never have a crowd.
Mhm.
That's the difference of the small ship. So the small ship is not your destination. Now, it doesn't mean it's not luxurious. It doesn't mean it doesn't have a spa or wonderful linen or great food or any of that. I have luxury ships that honestly, it would be like you're living in Beverly Hills. And if it's in your budget, then your style, that's the way you want to travel, you can even go to Antarctica and the polar region like that. But then again, there are purpose-built smaller ships, exploration vessels. They're not designed for luxury, they're designed for function. So you have an exploration vessel that has a new bow configuration. And when you're going through the Drake Passage, instead of the ship violently doing this, it's designed to cut through the waves and the ship stays level. So not only do the passengers not get seasick, the crew doesn't either. And going through heavy water like that is a joy. And they're icebreaker class and so forth. So there are a lot of purpose-built smaller ships. Well, how small are they? You can get a catamaran for 4 to 6 people, and you can go through the Caribbean, or you can go to Australia, or you can go anywhere. You've got river boats and canal boats that can take a couple of people, and you can see the inland waters of Europe, of Asia, and even Africa, and very small and very intimate. Obviously, it's not going to be luxury. There's no waterfalls and there's no, ice dancing shows, but you're going to see the destination as nobody else has done. And just like I compared my Alaskan trip, I got an experience of a lifetime. And these people on the larger ships were maybe a quarter of a mile away and had no clue what they missed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a question of what is your style. If you like the activity, if you enjoy the crowds, and here's where it is. If you're younger and you've never cruised, or you've got a young family, the big cruise ships have family activities that are separate from the adults. If you're multi-generation and the grandparents want it sweet and you want to give the kids the inside cabin, great. But if that gets tiresome, because almost everything is a la carte, and you want to go on a smaller ship, those are mostly everything's included.
Mm-hmm.
So on this Alaska trip, they gave me rubber boots, they gave me walking sticks, they provided the Zodiacs and the kayaks. It's all in there. I didn't have to pay anything extra. And the food, there were 4 people in the kitchen. There was a cook, there was a dishwasher, there was a person who did the sous chef work, and there were a couple of other people. Was one other person. Oh, they were doing the pastries, right? And you wish Mama could cook like this. And it was all from local ingredients. All right. I mean, we had salmon, we had king crab, we had amazing things, all from locally sourced and pretty much, I guess, organically grown, but it was a dining room. Okay. So, instead of it being a Four Seasons, think of it as a Marriott.
Mhm.
Still very acceptable, still clean, still, meets all the safety rules, but it wasn't designed for you to linger in the dining room. It was designed for you to get on deck and look at whales.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's the significant difference. They can go every place a big ship can go, and many more places a big ship would not go.
Mhm.
If you're aware of the controversy of these huge ships going into Venice, Italy, all
Mhm.
right, they create a wake. Some of them actually bump up against some of the buildings, and they've had some damage. It wasn't designed for mega ships. It was
No.
designed for gondolas, right? So
Yeah.
a small ship that has 150 passengers on it, no problem. Doesn't create a wake, doesn't create environmental issues, and the people of Venice are not overwhelmed with thousands of people coming on and thousands of people coming off.
Yeah.
So it's environmentally sound. You get to see the same things you would anywhere else, but you are more focused on where you're going, the food, the culture, the music, the history, and the people on board are usually wearing multiple hats. So sometimes there will be a botanist on board that also happens to be a cabin attendant. Or they're, I love that the captain of my Alaska ship, he used to take the Zodiacs out with everybody because he liked to go on land too.
Mhm.
So you'll never see that on a mega ship.
No.
So if
No.
that appeals to you, the smaller ships are there. So that's the significant difference. I hope I've explained it well enough.
Yes. Oh, yes. There's two things I'd like to highlight that you said is that the small ships are definitely more immersive in the destination.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that you mentioned how, the expedition ships are built to withstand the waves and stay like this instead of like this, because I know there's somebody listening right now who has a problem with this.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, no way. So
Well,
thank you
I
for
know people
mentioning
that
that.
get seasick in a bathtub, so any motion is going to be a problem. But
Yeah.
the Drake Passage has two options: it's flat as glass, or it's as turbulent as your washing machine. So you have to have a vessel that can navigate all of that, and you have to have a vessel that, if you get into some ice, has the ability to break through. And
Mhm.
so these are all ice reinforced ships. They are working on natural gas and battery power now. So they're much more environmentally
Yes.
sound, and they don't discharge anything into the ocean. And the comforts are of a modern build.
Mhm.
So it's not like, somebody's just taking their sailboat and going to Alaska. No, this is a purpose-built ship with experienced explorers on board that can explain to you the region. And they're usually doing some kind of science as well, because let's face it, scientists need to go there and conduct things. So they usually have presentations that explore the science that's going on. And now you're part of that too.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. So being in the travel industry like you and I are, we know there are myths out there about the cruising industry. What are some of these myths and how would you dispel them?
Well, I mean, a myth is just a rumor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you pass the rumor long enough, it becomes lore, and then that lore becomes a long-term myth. So I would say, if you are concerned, do some homework and ask people who've done it. There are concerns now about health and safety, and we
Mm-hmm.
all want to travel and come back with smiles. Nobody wants to come back in tears. I happen to have a client who was actually on the very first ship that got COVID, and she was in South America. And as she was rounding the horn, they told everybody that they're going to have to cancel the cruise. And she was not allowed to dock in Colombia. She was not allowed to dock in Central America. She was not allowed to dock in Miami. And finally, in Fort Lauderdale, they made them stay 2 miles out at sea for a couple of days until they could figure out how to get her off the ship. And they had to arrange private airfare and private water taxis and private everything, because nobody knew enough about this disease. And you know what her answer is? As soon as I can, I'm cruising again. Because
Yeah.
they treated her well. They kept her fed. Now, she, bless her heart, put Facebook Live images up, and she was in tears because she was going through Miami thinking she was getting off, and all the cruise boats were lying there, and all the crew were waving and honking the ship's horns and doing all that, and they wouldn't let them dock. And so can you imagine the disappointment? Now, she was fortunate. She had a cabin with a balcony.
Yeah.
But there are ships that have inside cabins with no exposure to the outside except maybe on the television. Can you imagine being that way for so long?
No.
Oh my gosh. So I think the crew did the best they could, but on that ship, they didn't tell anybody, but they had deaths and they had serious illnesses. And it was one of those things where they had to come to a complete stop and figure out, what is this thing? So I'm pleased to say that it's taken a long time. And I know the cruise lines that are running the mega ships have been yelling the hardest. But remember, they have chosen to put their flag on a foreign country.
Yes.
Which means that foreign country controls their rules and their regulations. So when they come to the United States, they're doing so as a guest. And so if the United States is saying through the CDC or some other means that we're not allowing this, or we're putting restrictions on that, well, the good news is if you have an American flagged ship, you don't have those restraints. So if you want to cruise, if you wanted to cruise 6 months ago in Alaska, if you wanted to cruise on the Mississippi River, if you wanted to cruise on the Columbia River, if you wanted to cruise, on the inland waterways of Florida, no problem. You could have done it. But everybody broad brushes everything and says, oh, there's no cruising allowed. So how do you cruise to Alaska? Well, I'm in Denver, so you fly from Denver to Seattle, from Seattle to Anchorage, or Seattle to Juneau, and you get a U.S. flagged boat that will cruise only in Alaska, therefore U.S. waters. Done deal. And so I was able to help people who really, really had to get the heck out of here, get the heck out of here. The hard part was the airlines, because the airlines didn't know what protocols to do. But if you could overcome those hurdles, and we did, and my biggest mantra, and I'm sure yours was, the safety of my clients first, and then their financial welfare right after that. So knock on wood, I was able to get everybody's money back who was compelled to do so. And because they couldn't work, or they lost their job, or their business suffered, I got them refunds instead of vouchers. And so I feel very proud as an advocate to do that. But ironically, all of those people now are calling me, Mitch, I'm ready to book again. So as traumatic as it was, if travel is in your veins, you can't take it out. And I think we're going to see a surge in travel, probably unprecedented, right? And relating to small ships, if you look at the register for ships under construction, I would say 25% of them are mega ships, 75% of them are what I call small ships.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah. So who's working here, right? They know that the smaller ship can be contained medically. They're always going to be closer to land for evacuation and medical purposes, or food, or if there's any mechanical failure, it's easier for them to be, towed in than it is a ship that's 3 football fields long, and there just doesn't happen to be an aircraft carrier nearby to tow them in.
Exactly. Exactly.
So the myths are just that. And I would say, do your homework. It could be that what you heard is valid. And then you have to make your own judgment on risk. You and I, we recommend, we research, we are encouraging people to travel. But in the bottom line, if your health, if your physical ability, if your immunity, if your diet, anything is a constraint to your peace of mind, postpone. But don't stop. Instead of booking for 21, book for 23, because by 23 we'll have a big handle on this. And why do you want to do that? Because now you have something in the calendar to strive for, something to plan for, something to brag about. It'll motivate you to plan, and oh, if there's a sale for clothing, or if there's this or that, it's, oh, I'm taking this trip, so I'm putting it all away. I can save. And that is emotionally rewarding too,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, it's about time we all had something to look forward to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. And I'm traveling myself. I'm going to be going to Georgia for a little bit for a family trip. And then I'm going to the Midwest. And from the Midwest, I fly to Hollywood, Florida for a cruise exposition. Clea is having their cruise 360. So I get to, fingers crossed, inspect some new vessels and meet some cruise line executives there. And so I'm ready to travel. And I, for one, I had to give up. I was going to do a Greek cruise. I was going to do a cruise on Greenland and go the Arctic Circle into the Northwest Passage. I had to give that up. But you know what? Here I am. I'm alive. I'm healthy. I missed a year. So what did I do? I kept researching. So when it's right, I will take the Greek cruise. I will see
Mhm.
Greenland, but I'll be more motivated, not less.
Mhm.
The disease is just something that we've got to cope with it, and we move on. We had Zika, we had SARS, we had all of these contagious diseases, and we had financial impacts with the financial shutdown. And guess what? Each and every time we've rebounded.
Mhm.
And who is it that we're visiting? We're visiting human beings that just happen to live in a different place, that grew up in a different environment with different culture and different food and different music, and they're still here,
Mhm.
right? So they are welcoming guests wonderfully.
Yeah.
I remember after Hurricane Katrina, I visited New Orleans, and I got more hugs because New Orleans was not in good shape. But they would hug me and say, thank you for taking a risk while we're not as tidy as we could be. We'll build
Mhm.
back, but thank you for coming to our city. Well, didn't that make me feel 10 feet
Mhm.
tall?
Yeah.
And think about that as you travel. The people that are missing you need you as much as you need your business and your work. It all works out.
Yeah. They're going to be thrilled to see us. I know they're ready and willing to welcome us back. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Arms,
Well,
arms wide open.
yes, yes. Well, we are coming up on time, Mitch. So I've really enjoyed your comments today and for, dispelling some cruise myths and giving us some education today. It's been a pleasure to talk with you. So if people want to find out more about you, where would they go?
My website is kraytontravel.com, Krayton travel.com, and it would be Mitch at MITCH at kraytontravel.com for email. And I welcome everybody's inquiry. I'm always happy to help people. I say it's never too soon to plan.
No.
And I want you to make reservations and not excuses, because that allows you to make memories and no regrets.
Yes, make reservations, not excuses. We'll end on that note. Book now, travel later.
Charlotte, it's been a joy. I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to share. And thank you for hosting this podcast. It's been great.
Thanks, Mitch. Have a fabulous day.
You as well.
Okay, bye.
Happy sailing.